And in order for you to run OSGeoLive within your system, then that brings us to what is called virtualization. So you have to use a tool like a virtual box. So virtual box, and when OSGeoLive is released, it's in two versions or in two packages: a DVD and a virtual box disk image, just like a hard drive that you can put in a virtual machine.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Geospatial Africa podcast. You just heard the voice of Enoch Seth, a free and open source geospatial software advocate and open data advocate. He participates in communities such as OpenStreetMap and Open Source Geospatial Foundation, and is also a member of the Wikimedia user group. And he is a member of the OSGeoLive project. So we'll be talking today about the OSGeoLive project, a self-contained bootable DVD USB thumb drive, which contains a lot of geospatial free and open source geospatial software, how you can start using it, and the data that are also contained in the software. So, but before we get started, we're asking for you to listen to the podcast, share the podcast, and subscribe so that you can get notified whenever a new episode drops. So that's it for me. Let's get started. Thank you for being here, Enoch, and deciding to do this with me. So exciting to have you on the show. So before we start, would you mind telling us about yourself and how you got into the geospatial industry?
Okay, thank you for having me. My name is Enoch, as you already mentioned, and I have been around for some time. I am OpenStreetMap contributor, and I love free and open source stuffs, and I use and live on them. So my journey for getting into free and open source ecosystem, I would say, all started from when I first installed Ubuntu on my computer some couple of years ago, and then discovering OpenStreetMap, and then free and open source software for geospatial. Yeah, basically QGIS, which is the starting point. I think some say QGIS, some say QGIS, or some say QGIS. It depends on which location or geographical preference or environment that you find yourself. I didn't study geospatial in school. I got to know about geostuffs, even though I have some love for maps. Before studying my bachelor's, I didn't do my bachelor's in anything geospatial, but yeah, I'm doing my graduate studies currently, which is in geospatial domain. So I'm reading MSc cartography. So my bachelor's not in domain of geo, but what I do now as my master's is completely in the geo domain. So I'm kind of like jumping from one field to the another. I read computer science for my bachelor's. So yeah, the other side of it is the passion and the love for it.
I think that's really interesting because I've only quite met a few persons that have come from computer science to the geospatial side, and I think it always seems that people that come from there always have a little bit of a upper hand because they can walk around with software and do the heavy lifting, I might say, and I think that's really impressive. So the next question I want to ask is, what's your daily work like as the geospatial expert? I mean, moving from computer science into geospatial, and you talked about the passion and love for it. So what's your work like?
Good question. I don't know if I'm an expert in the geospatial domain, even though I use these tools. I have some kind of understanding of them. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but since you have given me the title, I hope I'll be expecting some paycheck for being this expert. So not okay. My current day job, or generally, I work with free and open source software for geospatial, and most of my work have been within reach of maybe generating data, creating them, data quality, and also producing maps and some analysis that of course we say analysis that trigger decisions or help us plan actions to develop well or answer some questions. So basically, I'm within the ecosystem of doing some analysis, some maps, some data quality. Yeah, now I found some love in WebGIS, which is also going somehow slowly, but yeah, just play around with every bit of thing, and then but not speciality in one specifically, which we are still trying to figure out. But that's how the ecosystem is. A little bit of everything that makes it all a whole.
Mm. That's interesting as well. And you talked about having a passion for maps. I mean, you're doing cartography and having the desire to learn and to expand your knowledge. The question I want to ask is, you're not just focused on using maybe proprietary software to do your work. You're very, very much interested in the open source ecosystem, open source free and open source software. So what really attracted you to this sector? I mean, this aspect of geospatial. I mean, the free and open source software. What is the story behind it?
Interesting question. Thanks for asking this question. Well, yeah, I live on free and open source software. Not to say that, yeah, you can't use proprietary or commercial. Open source software can also be paid for. There is this general assumption that free software is porous, but there are many reasons. I think this we can have a chat for another day on free and open source software. But generally, with free and open source software, you have some levels of freedom. So not some, a lot of level of freedom. But the Free Software Foundation has defined it as 4 levels of freedom. You are able to see what is within the software you are using, change it, share it, and then also improve upon it. So with free and open source software, I have the liberty, or you have the freedom in order to play around and do a lot of other stuff, and also be able to share it freely without any limitation. So based on this philosophy of general good or public good for everyone, that's how come I have personally adopted and also try to advocate the use and promotion of free and open source software in not only in geospatial, but a couple of domains: education, public sector, and then personal use as well, and also institutional development.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. That's really in depth. And I think one thing I got from that is you're not just using this software; you're also advocating for it, and that's how actually I met you. I mean, I saw your talk in the Open State of the Map Africa conference where you talked about open data and open software, and I think that is really interesting that you're not just using it and you're also advocating for the use of this products in different ecosystem like you mentioned.
Yeah, thanks, sir. And also, one thing is that this provides a global playing field. The same tools that to be using somewhere else in the world is the same tool that you use on the African continent, be it in Ghana or Nigeria. It's the same Firefox, and it's the same cookies. There is no polished cookies. It's the same cookies that you get to use. So whatever can be achieved with these tools somewhere else on the planet, we can also achieve with these same tools with the required knowledge and capacity building. I think we can also do more than that, provided we have the same drawing board or background, which is the same tool. So global playing field for all of us to achieve more, basically.
Yeah, great. So let's dive to the conversation of the day. So we'll be talking about OSGeoLive and the data aspect of OSGeoLive. And like I talked about, the first time I did mention that you gave a talk at the State of the Map Africa 2021 about OSGeoLive, and you reusing it with OpenStreetMap data. So what is OSGeoLive? Because I mean, there might be a lot of people listening to the podcast that might not have heard of it, maybe heard of it, but don't quite know what it is. So could you tell us what OSGeoLive is?
Good. Thank you. So OSGeoLive, of course, maybe someone listening might have heard of OSGeo, the Open Source Geospatial Foundation. And OSGeoLive is an operating system. Operating system might also sound as a very big word, but what is an operating system? If you are able to switch on your computer, what is helping you in order to use your favorite software like the web browser, let's say Firefox or VLC, You just can't pick up your computer or pick up your phone and then install your favorite applications on it. There needs to be a software system running on it. So mostly we say operating system or system. Software, as I learned in primary school, but it's operating system. So OSGeoLive is an operating system. Operating system in the sense that it allows you to run other software. See it as someone might use Windows, someone might use Linux, or someone might be using macOS. These are categories or examples of operating system. I use an open source operating system based on Debian, or I can use actually, somebody's using Windows 10, somebody's using Windows 7, or somebody's using Mac. These are examples of operating system. So OSGeoLive is an operating system, but it's based on Lubuntu, because open source software can be transformed, modified, and reused. OSGeoLive is based on Lubuntu, but purposely customized with applications in the domain of free and open source software for geospatial.
Okay, so does that mean that it is like a standalone? How do we do it? Is it on a DVD, a CD drive, or can it work on Windows, for example, or do I have to use it separately from another OS?
Okay, good. So operating system, or OS for short. OSGeoLive is operating system. If you have an idea about how to install an operating system, normally you see that, okay, maybe this is from a floppy disk, or this is from a DVD, or even a USB stick. So in order to run an operating system, you have the image of this operating system. So OSGeoLive has an image. When we go to the OSGeoLive website, that is live.osgeo.org, you see that you are able to download an ISO file. ISO is a packaged DVD image, which is read only. You cannot be changing things inside because it's prepared specifically for you to install this operating system for it. So it's an ISO which you can mount. Mount is that you can extract it to a device, a DVD, burn it on a DVD, or put it on a USB stick. And it's standalone, meaning that it's operating system. As operating systems work, Windows, you boot from Windows, or you boot from Linux. And then when you boot from it, booting from operating system, meaning that you are turning on your computer and it's starting into this operating system. When you have Ubuntu, when you turn it on, you see Ubuntu something. You have Windows, you see a Windows logo or something showing up. So you boot into OSGeoLive, you see OSGeoLive. That is how you boot into this operating system. So you need to mount it, and then you can put it into your PC and then boot from it by restarting the computer. Or an alternative is that, okay, you have an operating system on your computer already by default, Windows, Mac, or Linux. And in order for you to run OSGeoLive within your system, then that brings us to what is called virtualization. So you have to use a tool like a VirtualBox. So VirtualBox, and when OSGeoLive is released, it's in two versions, or in two packages, a DVD and a VirtualBox disk image, just like a hard drive that you can put in a virtual machine on a computer, and then you can boot from it. So you don't need to, you can directly install it on your current existing operating system, like a web browser, or like how you just go search for a software, download it, and double click and do next. No, it's an operating system. So in order to run it within another system, like you asked on Windows, you have to use a virtualization software like VirtualBox.
All right, great. That's really, really quite technical, and I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of confusion though, but I hope I've not confused that much. It's just like this. See that in order for you to get into your home, you need a key to open the door. And when you get into your home, then you have the sofa and co. So operating system is the main door to your home. And when you are in your sitting room, you have the sofa, the TV, and other stuff. They are the application software like Firefox, Chrome, VLC, and that stuff. But before you can get into your home, you need to use the door. Some people might come into the window, but let's forget about those people. You come into the door. So coming into the door is your operating system to the house. Just this simple analogy maybe might make much more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So to summarize this means that once I get audio live on a DVD or USB thumb drive, so I can stick it into my computer and put into that OS now. And all I can have now is all the software that is mounted on the audio ecosystem. Or I could also use a virtual environment like a VirtualBox and now, mount that and put into that using my Windows OS.
Absolutely. And the thing with Linux distributions is that you don't need to install before you can run, you can test. So we call it a live boot.
Right.
So when you put this stick into your computer, you can live boot from this USB and also access the power of all the tools. So this is where OSGeoLive is useful in terms of maybe running a workshop where you need these softwares that we'll be talking about soon. And then you just boot from it and then you can still work without installing it onto your system, but booting live from the pen drive.
Right. Thank you so much for breaking this down for us. So let's go over to the next thing. You already hinted at this. So what just special software bundled into the Audio Life ecosystem?
Well, when we start from the top, we might not, there's a lot in here, but just quickly using as a reference, when we go to live.osgeo.org and we see contents, there are OSGeo projects, or projects that are part of the Open Source Geospatial Foundation family projects like QGIS, GRASS, GDAL, and so these are already packaged. There are also community projects, and also there are some related projects which are not necessarily OSGeo projects, but free and open source projects that are related to the domain of geospatial. So we have a category for the software. So we have desktop GIS, we have browser facing GIS, we have web services, we also have data stores, we have navigation, spatial tools, we have some data, some geospatial library, and some standards information on it. So for desktop GIS, we can say, of course, there is GRASS, GIS, there is GVSig, there is also your favorite QGIS, which is already there. A couple of other ones are there. We have OpenJump, Saga, and UDIC. Some of them you might have not heard of before. And some of them I have also might have not used before, but these are tools that apply into your domain if you have to use them. And the browser ones like stuffs like GeoNode are already here, MapBender, OpenLayers. Also web services like GeoServer is also packaged with this operating system, and a whole lot of them. There is PostGIS database already running on this, and with PG routing. There is also GeoSM if you're an OpenStreetMap contributor, or you'd run trainings on OpenStreetMap, and you have OSGeoLive already. GeoSM, which is a Java OpenStreetMap editor, is already on this tool. And also, there is also support for, now we go into GIS without GIS, a talk I listened to from Paul Ramsey, where you can perform geoanalysis without needing a software. So there are Jupyter notebooks, which are doing geospatial stuffs. There is R also package here, and where there is some software, that, okay, if QGIS is there, GRASS is already, GDAL and GRASS might already be there. So this is coming with all you might want to run, but sometimes you have issues running on your current operating system, and it's already packaged for you here. So basically, that's a long list, but I just try to jump through them a bit in order not to get that boring. Yeah, we have some sample OpenStreetMap data already also on it, and some other stuffs.
Yes, we're going to come to that. I think that's another interesting part. So according to the website, I was just looking at it when I was doing the research. You said, about 50 plus software projects that are also there. And when I was doing the research, I found out that there are some of these software that I've heard of, but I didn't actually know they're part of the, OSGeoLive project. And I think it's really, really interesting. There's some I haven't even heard of before, and I think it's quite interesting. You did mention that, if, for example, someone who's using QGIS also could get to see GRASS, processing tools and GDAL processing tool in QGIS. And I think more interesting thing is that these projects are standalone on their own as well, but then they can be integrated into the other ones, and you can see this whole ecosystem working together. So you have Cheetah in QGIS, you have Grass in QGIS, you have Saga in QGIS.
QGIS is a tool that is riding on the shoulder of a lot of giants, and how do we call it? GDAL. Some of the things, or most of the things you might be doing with QGIS might be handled or is being handled by GDAL in the background, which you might not be aware of. So without um, GDAL on the system or on OSGeoLive, then these things of QGIS will not be running. But GDAL or these tools that are already embedded in QGIS can also be run on their own, standalone, if you want to do some automation or some just use a command line to maybe reproject a file easily, or do some compression of a GeoTIFF image. GDAL is one tool also that you can use to do this. You can do this in QGIS, but let's say these are big files, a lot of files. You don't want to drag and drop them, but you want to easily just do them quickly from the terminal. These are terminal-based tools, of course. GDAL is a terminal-based tool. You can run them easily or load data into a database. A lot of things GDAL is capable of doing, and that's why it's called the Swiss Army knife for geospatial world somehow. Or, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, because it's used not only by QGIS, your famous or your lovely proprietary tool that you might be using for GIS, geospatial analysis, also have GDAL running in there. So GDAL is used not only by QGIS or open source projects, it's used by a lot of tools out there that you might also not know about. So yeah, you can also check out what GDAL actually is and also leverage the power of GDAL for yourself. And
Yeah, absolutely. Jida is a really nice software tool to use. Yeah, because I actually dabbled with it at some point. Yeah, because at the time I didn't quite know that, QGIS, like you mentioned, is, standing on the shoulder of these giants, for example. But when I got to use Jida as a standalone application, I think I really loved it. And I think one thing I was hinting at was the interoperability of these different open source software. They all work together to make things easy for us. And I think that's really, really impressive. Okay, so another aspect of OSGeoLive, apart from the software aspect, is the data aspects. And this is one thing you also talked about during your presentation at the SOTM Africa. So what are the different data sources that can be found on OSGeoLive? Because I think it's always necessary. I think one of the problems that we might have is, having the data to, carry out analysis or to test this different software. And I think the interesting thing is that, okay, these data sets are also available on the OSGeoLive itself. So what are these different data sources that are available on the platform that can be used with the software?
Okay. Before I start, on the OSGeoLive system or this package, we have software. Of course, just providing software alone is not enough, because this environment is made to be run without internet connectivity. It's not everywhere on the planet that there is internet. That is why on the stick or on this system we have quick start. So all these software tools have mentioned or have a quick start and information about them. So there is one page that tells you, okay, what this tool is, and also a quick start that gives you a basic tutorial about what you can achieve with this tool. And in this quick start, there is a sample data. So per each quick start, there are sample data attached for you in order to run and play around with it. So, but notwithstanding some of the data already included here, you see some data from, of course, the famous natural life data. There is also some data from North Carolina, US educational data set. There's NetCDF data, and of course your lovely OpenStreetMap data is also included. This data is based on the FOSS4G location for FOSS4G is an annual conference, of course, run by the OSGeo community. So the data is based on the location of the conference. This year is going to be in Firenze, that is Florence in Italy. So for the next release, the location data from OpenStreetMap will be coming from Florence. So the previous one was supposed to be in Buenos Aires in Argentina, but because of the pandemic, it was online. Notwithstanding, the release had OpenStreetMap data packaged from this area as well. So yeah, maybe this is not all, but there in all the quick start, there is some data that you can use and then complete the quick start, which is a basic tutorial that everyone can run with some minimal or no guidance from an external tutor as well.
Oh, that's really great. So to understand more, the OpenStreetMap data, how is this data, for example, bundled? Does it come in different formats? Could you explain that?
Okay. OpenStreetMap data, of course, is open data. So the OpenStreetMap data included in the OSGeoLive release is within a PostGIS database. So PostGIS is already packaged, is within a PostGIS database, and it's a database. So you are connecting to a geodatabase on this OSGeoLive. So it's not in how do you call it, a standalone format like you mentioned. Shapefile is within a PostGIS database on the operating system, and this is not a big data because we are trying to reduce or make the size of the ISO very minimal so it can fit on a US initially DVDs. So I think were 4 gig you can get, but not so many people use DVDs to install operating system these days. That is how come the switch to USB sticks, which are more faster, is cool and interesting. So yeah, at least we should be able to fit this on an 8 gigabyte USB stick. So the ISO, just quickly checking, currently is 4 gigabytes. That's the ISO. Is 4 gigabytes of storage. So an 8 gigabyte USB stick should be able to host it.
Oh, great! Because it's interesting because some of these softwares, right, that are bundled into OSGeoLive are quite large. So I think it's really interesting that this can all be bundled into a smaller size, storage and distributed. And I think that's really really impressive. Thank you for sharing that explanation about how the OpenStreet data is being made available on OSGeoLive. I didn't quite, understand it at first because that means you have, since you have Postgres database installed through PostGIS, you can now access that data and use it to load either on QGIS or whatever other software you're using to run the test on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you did talk about the FOSS4G conference coming up. That's going to be in August. I'm sure a lot of people can't wait. I'm sure you yourself are preparing for that since you're actually a big advocate for the use of free open source software. So I'm actually looking at the website now. They have it's as of today there is 98 days, 17 hours, 50 minutes left for the conference, and I think that's really quite interesting. And the question I want to ask around this is that I did listen to the podcast where S3 talks about the version of OSGeo. At this moment, we are at version 14, and she did talk about that there's always this plan to release the next version during the FOSS4G conference. Is that something you are familiar with?
Yeah, so the OSGeoLive release goes along with the FOSS4G conferences, but it's also for the technical people. It's based on Lubuntu, so it's based on the release of Lubuntu, which is also based on Ubuntu. So it's kind of like family stuff. But what everyone should know is that, yeah, for the coming FOSS4G, there is a release. So for Firenze, there should be release 15, which the team is working on, I think, the early stages. So almost there is progress on it somehow. And there should be 15, of course, ready for the conference. The idea or the goal is that, for the conference, then we have 15. This can also be used for workshops because there will be workshops running, and some of these tools or most of these tools, the workshops are around these tools and provides environment easy that everyone can just grab and then follow the workshops smoothly instead of trying to set up things on an existing system. Sometimes it cannot be so interesting for someone who have no idea already or just want to try something. So basically, you are right. Goes with the FOSS4G conference, and there should be a release version 15 soon.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, if you're listening and you think you might want to try out OSGeoLive, there's going to be a new version coming out, say by August. So you just might get your hands on that and start, trying to look at it and use it and see how it can fit into your workflow. And I think the fact that it can be used, in conferences, maybe you're in workshops rather, and in educational setting, and people can actually use this OSGeo Live to test all the different open source software that are available, and then see the one that fits into your workflow, or into your if you're a company or something. I think that's really interesting, without having to install all these different software at once to test them out, but you can use OSGeo Live to to do your testing. I think that's really impressive. So let's talk about the community, right? Say someone is quite interested in being a part of the FOSS4G, or your ecosystem. Like, how can someone, apart from contributing through code, which other way can I contribute to the FOSS4G or for open source geospatial, ecosystem? How can I be a part of that? How can I contribute apart from writing code? Is there any other way that someone can be a part of this?
There are so many ways to get involved. Even though I read computer science, I wouldn't call myself a software developer. I am not. Have not developed an operating system or a software that is running on your mobile phone. We are all learning, and we keep learning as well. So uh, everybody is welcome to contribute to not only in OSGeo project or OSGeo Live, but there are a lot of open source projects out there that we can contribute to in one way or the other. Not necessarily writing code, which is the basis of the software or the tool, but there are many ways. One is which I think you are already doing. Advocacy is one outreach, because the tools can be there, but not so many people know about it. If the tools are there and we don't know about it, we don't use it, then the tools are useless, in my humble opinion. So, yeah, awareness or outreach is very important, and people need to do this, yourself, me, and everybody. And if we use tools and we find it interesting, we should also be willing to share and also give back to community and everyone as well. The other one I would say is that one way to contribute is okay, outreach. The other one is documentation. These tools that we use, I mentioned that on this OSGeo Live, there is quick starts and some information. They need to be written. This is not software programming. It's documentation about how these tools are used, or some quick start information. This is just basic tutorial that explains how to do something with these tools. And as software or tools change, sometimes there are major changes. People are needed to write this documentation or this quick start. Also, English is not the only language on the planet. There are a lot of languages. When you come to the OSGeo Live website, you have some languages already, but some still require translation. So if you are a native French speaker, or you understand, read, and write language in which this is nothing, you can help translate, and translation is one way to contribute as well. Quickly, yeah, I think outreach, translation, and also when you use it, yeah, teaching others to use it too is also one way of contributing. You don't have to write code, as we mentioned. So yeah, using, running training, or yeah, using this as your business. Using this as the basis for your small company, because you don't have enough capital to purchase that big one. QGIS is used for fun and for business and for professional cases, of course. And that is also one way of contributing, by using these tools, promoting it, and also, yeah, telling others what these tools have done for you.
Yeah, and they work perfectly great as well. They do the job for you, and it's really impressive. Yeah. So the next question I want to ask is, I mean, you yourself are an advocate for this project, for the software, for the ecosystem, for it to be widely adopted as possible. But what would you like to see in terms of the use and adoption of this open source special software?
Good. What will I love to see? It's a big one. I love to see so many things. So many things. If I start now, I don't think we will end the podcast. But the most important to me is that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter which tool, but using an open source tool give us all a global playing field. Like I learned from Mr. Sabra from Linux Accra user group, because it's the same tool, the same tool that is used somewhere in Europe, somewhere in the Americas, and it's the same tool. So we can also use this tool to accomplish so many things. So what I would say or advise or recommend or like to see in the next 10 years is to have so many businesses, so many startups in the African continent which are using these tools to be economically independent, uh, self-sufficient, and also for institutional development. These tools that we have, and this ecosystem of OpenStreetMap, we want to see tools and outcomes, impact, reuse, and solutions popping up, uh, awareness about these tools, that we welcome them and use them to our benefit and global benefit effectively.
Yeah, that's a really good vision. The next question I wanted to ask was, I think it's still related to that question was, what do you foresee as the future of open source geospatial software, just not in Africa, because you talked about Africa just now, but in
Okay.
global perspective.
And open source is the way. Yeah, is the way. I would say is the only way in so many options, because even the proprietary tool you use have some tiny component of it which is relying on free and open source library somewhere. So the only way is open source. Everyone should be aware of it. You should have a choice. You should have an option. Um, there are a lot of perceived barriers, in my opinion, that it's difficult or it's porous. But what I would like to see is that everyone is aware of alternatives out there and be able to make choices on their own, not forced ones, and also be able to reuse and tell people, yeah, there are alternatives as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because when people are more aware about this software, I think we can start to see a lot of people using it, and we can also start to see a lot of communities being built around the software, and we can start to see people who have the expertise contributing to the software and making it better. And then the question about porosity of the software would not be a topic for discussion again, because we have a lot of people contributing and making it better and better by the day. And also, I think, I don't know if you heard about the open source Africa conference. I think the theme for this year was "The future is open." I mean, I just got reminded when you said something about that the open source is the way forward. And I think that's absolutely true. So the last question I want to ask is, how can someone get in touch with the OSGeo project or the OSGeo community, and also how can someone get in touch with you in case they want to reach out to you and work on something?
Of course, if you have questions or you would like to try OSGeoLive, or you have a conference coming up and you need maybe some USB sticks of OSGeoLive, of course, the OSGeoLive team is happy to connect and also share these tools whenever possible. So the website of the OSGeo Live project, which is live.osgeo.org, live.osgeo.org, is the project homepage. And also, when you see this page, there's a contact us page. On this page, you find information about what this project is about, and mostly you can find us on IRC, Internet Relay Chat. Still a bit old, but it works for the OSGeo Live team. There is a mailing list which you can subscribe to, email based, and you can ask questions here, or the OSGeo mailing list itself. Like you can go to osgeo.org, and here on Twitter, there's OSGeo Live on Twitter as well. So you can follow, you can ask questions here, and also if you have any suggestions, you've tried these tools and use them, you can also write about it to tell people there are things out there, or there are tools or communities out there, because it's not only about the tools. If we have tools and people are not able to use them, like I mentioned, awareness, and who create the awareness is the community. So community needs everybody, you, me, and all of us. So live.osgeo.org, and contact us. You'll find more information here, and the list, mailing list address, and everything you will need is on this page.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to do well to add these links to the show notes so people can, quickly find them and get in touch. Thank you so much for your time. It was, great having this conversation with you, and I personally learned a lot, a lot about the project, the OSGeoLive itself, and I think it's really interesting. I hope a lot of people who are listening could, get your hands on this and start using it and making sure other people also, get to know about this project and use it more often. Thank you so much, Enoch.
Thank you very much for having me, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.